evening, you're with ET Now. This is the India Development Debate. I'm Sandeep Gurumurthi joining you from our news centre in Mumbai. Joining me in Delhi is my colleague and co-anchor Supriya Shrinate. Straight to the big debate tonight. We're calling it the Red Fort Row. The government's decision to hand over the reins of Lal Killa to the Dalmia Bharat Group has raked up a huge controversy. The latest to raise a red flag is the Indian History Congress, a conglomeration of the country's A-listed historians, which has sought a review of the proposal. A political slugfest has also begun, with the Congress accusing the Modi government of selling out heritage properties of national importance to private parties. Interestingly, the plan to open business houses for the upkeep of historical monuments is nothing new. The idea was first mooted by the Vajpayee government decades ago and was followed up by the two UPA governments as well.
Now, what is this whole brouhaha really all about then? The critics of the move say that the Central Advisory Board of Archaeology should be the sole agency for awarding such contracts. Some have also raised questions over the expertise of the Dalmia Group, predominantly a sugar and a cement manufacturer in this field. But there is a strong counter-argument as well. The fact remains that most of our historic monuments, including the iconic Taj, are in tatters, and unless something is done quickly, there could be collateral damage. Citing examples from Italy, which has handed over a record number of heritage structures to private firms for upkeep, they say this is surely an experiment worth taking. The big fight over the Modi government's decision to put 90 heritage monuments up for adoption, beginning with the Lal Killa in New Delhi, is a big topic of discussion and debate right here on the India Development Debate tonight. It is indeed a pleasure to bring the special edition of the show to you. Joining us on this show, right before we go into that headlong discussion and debate, is the Union Minister for Tourism, Mr. KJ Alphonse. And thank you very much, sir, for sparing time. You are in the middle of a controversy indeed. And so it's only fair that I come straight to the point and ask you this very fair question. How do you respond to critics who have questioned whether heritage conservation can be handed over to the highest bidder?
Well, the basic concept behind this entire exercise is to assert that India belongs to its citizen, its people, that it's this 5,000-year-old civilization is not just thin air somewhere, that it is right there in the middle, that people at large, they own monuments, they own the heritage of India, and that they must have a role in protecting and preserving these monuments. So this is the entire idea of adoption of a heritage building.
Fair enough, but the fact remains, Mr. Alphonse, are corporates who adopt monuments, and let's get down to some of the specifics of the controversy, and it's important that you clear the air in this platform. Could you clarify if corporates who adopt these monuments are allowed to make changes to existing structures? What is the extent of intervention really? Will the ASI continue to supervise? Can you also share what kind of branding is allowed? Because that's also raised a lot of eyebrows.
Now, number one, to clarify, it's just not some big fat cat corporates who are only allowed to adopt monuments. A very good school here, a very conscientious school called the Bluebell School in Delhi is adopting a park and a monument. We are going to let Residents Association adopt parks and beaches. We are going to let people's associations to adopt parks and heritage buildings. So it is just not a fat cats who are going to be doing this. Number two, we have put out very transparently in our entire in our website the entire process of how we select a monument mitra. That is what a person who adopts a monument is called. So anybody who is willing to do this and who is going to invest more than money, a love for the monument, they are going to be involved with the adoption of monuments. So we invite applications from people, and we ask all of them who apply to make a presentation or make a vision document and make the presentation. And then of course this high-powered committee, which is co-chaired by the Secretary Culture and by Secretary Tourism, in which of course the Director General of ASI is also a member, makes a choice. Now, what kind of interventions can this monument mitra make? Now, number one, they cannot touch the monument at all. It's very, very, very clear. You cannot touch the monument. Number two, what's the kind of publicity that they can get out of this? Now, again, it is mentioned very much, very, very clearly in the MOU that some very discreet publicity can be given subject to the approval of the ASI. Now, the ASI is an extremely conservative organization. So, if the Monument Mitra gets a few millimeter length board which signage which says, well, this is adopted by this Monument Mitra, in this case in the case of the Red Fort, well, the Dalmias, I think they should be very fortunate, because I know how conservative the ASI is, and therefore, what are the Monument Mitra going to basically do? On the periphery, they are going to look after the cleanliness of the monument, they are going to provide drinking water, they are going to provide benches and chairs for sitting down, they are going to provide Wi-Fi, they are going to provide drinking water, they are going to construct toilets, of course, subject to, everything is subject to the approval of the ASI, the location where it is going to be done. And of course, we also have the higher amenities like a cafeteria or a souvenir shop, which can also be put up subject again to the approval of the ASI. And in these cases, wherever there is semi-commercial activity involved, the entire income from that will go only to the monument, what can be spent on the monument. So, these Monument Mitras spent money, but they don't take anything back.
Okay, Monument Mitra spend money, but they don't get anything back. That's the word there. But could you again clarify, Mr. Alphonse, what is the indemnity clause in the Adopt a Heritage scheme? Who does conservation under the scheme? What is the owner's responsibility on the Monument Mitra?
Well, the entire conservation work will be done by the Monument Mitra, in the case of the Red Fort by the Dalmia, and in every case, whoever is the Monument Mitra prepares, the Dalmia does not do it. The conservation work of the monument will be done only, I emphasize, only by the ASI, or if it is a state government monument, by the state government, not by anybody. The Monument Mitra, in this case the Dalmia, will not be allowed to touch at all the monument. So, it is very, very clear.
Okay, I get that part, and I think what is important to just come back to and say that, this debate is completely politicized, and you have said that the UPA government handed over the restoration and maintenance task of at least 5 monuments to a foreign agency, the Aga Khan Trust. But the MOU between the NCF and the ASI and the Aga Khan Trust for Culture was initially for the garden restoration of Humayun's tomb, and it was signed in 1999 when the BJP was in power. Is then the attack against the Congress and the retorts that are coming in from some of your own party colleagues and members ill-aimed? Because the Congress didn't begin it, you guys began it.
Well, you see, Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister of India, who I believe was from the Congress party, he is on record saying this restoration of the Humayun tomb is a great example of how private-public partnership can succeed, and such model should be taken forward. This is what Mr. Manmohan Singh said. And if Manmohan Singh doesn't have credibility in the Congress party, I mean, that is not my problem.
Okay, Manmohan Singh, who was, you believe, I don't know about that, he definitely was from the Congress party, but why has this really become such a political slugfest, this whole experiment that is now happening, the Monument Mitra? I mean, leaders like Mamata Banerjee, and I think I must just quote her here, she says that Red Fort is a symbol of our nation, it is where India's flag is hoisted on Independence Day. Why should it be leased out? It's a sad and a dark day in our history, was her response when this was carried out. I mean, these monuments, after all, aren't sand and stone, and, they chronicle our history. I'm just trying to understand the politics over this.
It's very easy to theorize and, come out with huge, theses on why it shouldn't be done. But look at India's history. Thousands of these monuments and heritage which comes down from 5,000 years. What is the state of these monuments? I was in Agra just a couple of days back. What is the condition of the surroundings of our jewel of the crown, the Taj Mahal? You go to the 3,600 odd ASI sites and go to also the thousands and thousands of monuments which are under the state government. Are they protected? Are they preserved? I mean, look at the kind of filth and dirt and dearth of a simple basic infrastructure like toilets and drinking water. Are we willing to learn from history? Are we willing to learn? or we will just keep on theoretizing, you know, some historian, some art critique, you know, saying, well, this shouldn't be done. Well, I am not a theoretician, I am a practical man, I am a doer, and the Honorable Prime Minister of India, he says, let's deliver things, let's ensure that things are done, and it's just not, we don't want to write theories of how to protect monuments, we want actual work to be done, and this is exactly what this government is doing.
Fair point, but what about the opposition within the BJP? 3 Goa cabinet ministers have opposed this Adopt a Heritage scheme, which puts 2 sides there as well for adoption, saying we should be clear about what exactly is the scheme. The experience with Delhi has been that they come up with a small thing and then they take over your whole asset. And that's the word coming in from Vijay Sardesai. So opposition from within is also there. Why is that? Have you not been able to take everybody on board?
Ours is a very, very large party, it's the largest political party in the world, and therefore there would certainly be different views in my party, and these views are all absolutely welcome. In fact, the views from the opinion of Mamata Banerjee and everybody else who opposes this is also fine for us. I mean, we don't have a problem. I think this is a democracy, so people have their right to express their views, but we believe that what is best in the interest of the country will be done. Our monuments are our national heritage. It is owned by people. We want the people of India to have a sense of ownership. It's not some babu sitting in ASI in a dusty office who says this is my heritage. Sorry, this country belongs to its citizens, its people, and they will all be involved in protecting the heritage of India.
Final question, Mr. Alphonse, before we let you go. What is the admission here? Is in some sense the government admitting lack of resources, you know, inability to maintain these monuments, lack of expertise and inefficiency in being able to maintain these historical monuments? Is that an admission? And in that sense, you've probably taken the right step. But is the government admitting its incompetence to maintain and manage these monuments?
Well, we are just looking at history and judging the work done by governments in this country during the past 70 years, of which I guess 65 years was run by the Congress party, and these parties which rule India have been responsible for complete negligence and destruction of these monuments. So who is talking? And therefore, we want to reiterate again that, you know, we want complete involvement of people, everybody to feel, yes, this is my monument. And I want people to feel proud. When they go to the Red Fort, when they come out, they would say, wow, I am proud to be Indian. This Red Fort belongs to me. That's the kind of things which we want to be done at these sites.
All right. On that note, Mr. Alphonse, thanks very, very much for joining us right here on ET Now with your perspective, because I want to take this debate to where it really belongs, and it has to be all the guests who are joining us right here on ET Now. So thanks very much indeed for sparing time and speaking to us. It's a special panel that's joining me, and without wasting any more time, I'm going to go across to the 2 experts. Of course, they're represented by political class, but I've got Ms. Swapna Little and Ms. Rana Safi right here on this show, and I think it's only fair that I begin with those 2 guests. I've also got Mohammad Khan from the Congress and Aman Sinha from the BJP. Ms. Swapna Little, if I may come to you, private enterprise and the debate around it as far as monuments is concerned. The moot question is, should private enterprise be allowed for the upkeep of national monuments? It's no denying that they need help, but are private companies the answer? And like somebody said, heritage conservation, can that be handed over to the highest bidder?
I think the main issue here is that we have a major misconception here. We think we are handing over monument conservation. We are not. We are not handing over monument conservation. What if you go to the average site today, you see the ASI is involved in its core competence, which is conserving the monument. The problem is running cafeterias, building toilets, even other kinds of facilities. That's not the core competence of the ASI. So we should not be saying, you know, you're taking something away from the ASI and you're giving it to corporate. It's not that at all. It's partnership, and it's not ASI versus corporate versus people. It's not like that, I think.
This does no harm. It's not like the conservation has been given over to a private party. They're just going to look at maintenance. What's the brouhaha all about then, Rana Safi? I mean, after all, isn't Adopt a Heritage Scheme in some sense very similar to the National Culture Fund, albeit with more branding for corporates? And like it's been pointed out, there is oversight. The MOU clearly mandates the kind of oversight that ASI will have. That there is an oversight committee that will be headed by by the Secretary Culture, Secretary Tourism. So there is enough oversight. So in that sense, why do you think there has been so much of noise over this move by the government?
See, I have no problem per se with the maintenance contract. As Swapna just said, it's actually the maintenance, it's good that it's being given to a private partnership because that's their core competency. But let's talk of conservation itself. Now, when we go to, and I visit monuments all over the country. Since I write on them, I'm writing books on them and articles and columns. I visit every monument in every part of the country. And I do see that there is a need for toilets, there's a need for drinking water, all that's fine. But what I do see, especially when I go to the Red Fort, is a sagging ceiling in the Diwan-e Khas. I see holes in the Imtiaz Mahal. I see that the paint is peeling off the Khwabgah. Who is going to look after this? The Red Fort generates 20 crores almost every year in ticket sales and parking. So why isn't that money being used to conserve the monument itself? If the monument does not last and it's already 400 years old, what are we going to do with swanky or sparkling toilets? That is my concern. The second concern that I have is, which is again I've been raising it from day one since the story broke, and that is the concern that Indian History Congress has also raised. It's over the interpretation centers. Whose history is going to be told there?
That's an important point, and Aman Sinha, I'm going to actually come to you on the point that is being raised here. And I'm tempted to actually stick with the controversy and talk to you about experience and all of that of Dalmia and everything like that. But I have to ask you, the attempt here is to upkeep monuments, but this is just going to be peripheral work. This is running a cafe and having a Wi-Fi. The point that both these experts are making is conservation. I think that's extremely important, and that is still being done by ASI. In some sense, there is admission on the part of the government. The minister was on record to say that a Babu in ASI can't think of this as his own property. So this is on account of the inefficiency in the ASI is why this is being handed out. But the monument itself, nobody is talking about it. The conservation part of it is not going to be done by Dalmia or anybody else for that matter. It will continue to happen by ASI. So what purpose does it solve then? You can have very swanky toilets all across, but with a crumbling monument inside.
Supriya, I first of all compliment ET now on having a debate on this subject, because there are a large number of misgivings and incorrect facts were stated by the opposition parties on the issue. Let me clarify very clearly and categorically that all ownership and control vests in government and its agencies. Nothing has been leased out at all. And in fact, these private agencies, they would only provide some support services like cleaning, sanitation, toilets, etc., as you were mentioning. And therefore, Supriya, the ASI, which has to focus on the conservation and the maintenance of the monuments per se, they would be able to focus and channelize their energies and priorities into that. Exactly, that is what your question was about. And in the bargain, the amenities in and around tourism infrastructure, there would be upgradation of tourist facilities, etc. So therefore, I think it's a very good synergy. And I do not know what opposition is criticizing about, Supriya. In fact, all these services which are running in any of these monuments, they were already let out to private agencies and outsourced even during the UPA regime. The only distinction and difference, Supriya, is that today the public exchequer is not being burdened by this. The taxpayer is not paying. There are monument mitras who have come around and who will pick up the tab, who will maintain this and who will pay for the services that they are extending. They are not entitled to charge a single rupee. They have no power or authority to do that. And any revenue which accrues is only going to go into the coffers of the monument per se, which is towards the conservation and maintenance of the monument. So therefore, there are large number of such misgivings, and I believe, it was absolutely incorrect on part of opposition parties to manufacture certain facts which were not existing at all. The crux of the matter is that ASI gets to focus on the conservation maintenance of monument, which is what their primary mandate is, and monument mitras, they will upgrade the tourist and public facilities in and around, and they will pay for it.
Okay, I take that point, Amit sir. Let me get it.
Is not going to be burdened.
Okay,
so
Amit sir,
I do not see there is any difficulty at all.
Okay, I take that point, and I agree, and I think the opposition has to answer
and
here
Sandeep,
as well.
This is being only tried out in about.
Sure, I take that point. Let me
may I just
okay, very quickly.
One short point. This is only being done in about 116 properties out of some 3,500 properties that ASI maintains.
Okay.
So it's only a pilot project, and we'll see if it works out. Then it will sustain. Otherwise, it will go back to the old model.
Okay, Mohammed Khan, what is the Congress's opposition? I understand that you're trying to look to score political points here, but is it driven by Congress's sudden discovered paranoia to any sort of private enterprise? If you've read the MOU, which I'm sure you have, there are enough checks and balances within the MOU. No money can be charged from people who come to visit these sites. The accounts, you cannot make profit out of this venture. The accounts of these mitras will have to be audited by a CAG empaneled auditor. There are enough checks and balances. So why this sudden paranoia if a radical step is taken to improve the upkeep of our of our monuments? And they've in a sense taken forward what the Vajpayee government and subsequently the UPA government had done as well. Why is the Congress opposing it so strongly?
Paranoia is not the word I would use. The word I would use is a lack of clarity on the part of this government. I listened very intently to Mr. Alphonse, who has been on a 2-day spree giving interviews, damage controlling at his best to try and justify the decision. I must say I am thoroughly confused as to what he is saying. I'll tell you why. You're right. We've read the memorandum and we've read the vision document that they put out in anticipation of this. This vision document was also presented before the standing committee headed by Derek O'Brien. Derek O'Brien does not belong to the Congress. And he himself has gone on record to say that they had strict reservations about this policy, which they shared with the officers in question. Number two, the Indian History Congress, nothing to do with the Congress party, has also come out that this policy needs to be looked at. I want to make two very quick points. First is, Mr. Alphonse is on your channel, and he tries to assure us that the role played by the Dalmia Group or anyone else to whom this is tendered will be minimal at best, a little Wi-Fi here, a few seats there, a few clean toilets, and as Mr. Aman Sinha contributed, the public doesn't have to bear the burden. Sir, Ms. Rana Safvi pointed out that you make a very, very large sum. She put forth a certain number. There is an RTI query from last year which reveals you make 6 crores. I don't know if that number is a conservative estimate, but it says that you make 6 crores. What is that money being used for if not for these purposes? Have you completely abdicated whatever responsibility you have, either through your agencies such as the ASI or through the Department of Culture and Tourism? Number two, there is a reason why there's an outcry today, and I'm coming back to what the Standing Committee and the IFC said. There was a high-powered committee constituted, Sandeep. There was a high-powered committee constituted. Mr. Alphonse was asked about that on one of your sister channels today. He said, I also wasn't on the committee, so I don't know how many responses we received. He is on air, on record saying that. But more importantly, what he did not say was the number of experts or people who you require to comment on this thing. There were bureaucrats, of course, but there were no experts, there were no historians, there were no archaeologists. That is a fact. And I dare Mr. Sinha to dispute this. That is why everyone today is challenging this decision. Number three, finally, you draw erroneous comparisons with the UPA, sir.
Okay,
the UPA did fantastic work for our monuments. The Aga Khan Foundation and we together, we did not pay them a single rupee. They were an accredited organization backed by experts from Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge with over 40 years of experience.
One second.
So please, don't compare apples and oranges.
Yes. Okay. No, so UP has done fantastic work and MP has doing its own bit by giving it to Dalmia. The reality is that our monuments are not in great shape. Both Mr. Aman Sinha and Mr. Mohammed Khan, please realize one thing. Our monuments are not in great shape. You can be at the best site in India. The stench of urine doesn't let you enjoy the sunset. I mean, that's the reality of our monuments. Let's not take it too far. But Aman Sinha, quickly respond to that and then I will take it back to the experts in the show.
Supriya, we are trying to get it in shape. But perhaps my friend from the Congress party forgot that who is responsible for this kind of apathy and mismanagement and shambles in which these monuments lie, in which these are symbols of our national heritage. What was the Congress party doing for 60 years? And why are these monuments in shambles? Because of the state of affairs which existed during the Congress UPA regime. So therefore, I do not wish to go into details. We are only trying to retrieve the situation. We are trying to improve, we are trying to correct the picture. We wish that the ASI should be allowed to focus on its priorities, which is conservation.
I wish you had shown more imagination.
I have two children. One second. Aman Sinha and Mohammad Khan. I have two children and I want to take them across all 3,600 sites in India. Can I take them? The answer to that is a no. Those are not the best sites that I could visit as far as infrastructure is concerned. So let's not get there, but please just hold your thoughts. I want to go to Sapna Little and then of course take it across to Rana Safi as well. The question that I think is being missed in this debate, Ms. Little, is that, you know, we talk so much about job creation, we talk so much about generating employment, and tourism is this one big bet where we really can. I mean, that's something that we can really do. But all that you have at a lot of sites in India is an organized machinery of touts that ensure you have an unpleasant experience. If that is being reformed, I just don't understand what is wrong with it.
You know, I was just listening to all this and I feel that let us take a case scenario. If you're talking about the Red Fort and you're talking about improving facilities, I was looking at the MOU and the kinds of things that they are putting in, signage, some amount of augmented reality, virtual reality, those kind of things. Now, I share Rana Safi's concern about this. What is the kind of information that's going to be put there? And I would really like to ask those questions, and I'd like, you know, I'd like to see how this pans out. And I really hope that the not only the ASI, but a lot of experts will be involved in the details of this. And I, in fact, feel that this is the ideal time to involve the you know, sort of experts who've been working on, you know, there are experts in India at various universities who've worked on the Red Fort, who have analyzed its structures, know how to interpret that place, how to understand. You know, you are not only looking at monuments which are brick and mortar, you are looking at the story behind it, what it's all about. And this is the ideal opportunity when you are developing this kind of signage, this information which you're going to put out there, to involve these people, involve the, you know, people from the Indian History Congress. There are some great minds there who've done wonderful work. Let's involve them. They should be asked, you know, how would you interpret this? What is the work you've done? What's the research you've done? That would really be, according to me, the ideal scenario for this kind of thing.
And yet we've seen this, you know, this sort of strong opposition from the Indian History Congress to this entire measure, to the entire step taken by here by the government. What explains that, Ms. Rana Safi? Why do you think there's been such a strong opposition from the Indian History Congress? And if I may add to that, you know, by giving maintenance to a corporate entity and allowing ASI to continue with conservation, has the government opened room for sort of passing the buck with less accountability? You know. What's your own assessment?
Just before I answer your questions, I'd like to clarify a point that was raised by, I think, Mr. Muhammad Khan. He had asked that 2014 the figures were 6 crores. In 2014 the ticket was 10 rupees, today it is 30 rupees, so you can multiply it into 3. And 29 lakh domestic tourists come who are now paying 30 rupees as opposed to 10 rupees in 2014. So that answers that question. Now to come to Indian History Congress. Indian History Congress has raised two concerns. One is they have said that there should be an impartial review of the whole procedure that has been done, of the giving away of the whatever the structures that they have placed for the maintenance of it. Second, they have raised concerns about whose interpretation and whether there is any space to propagate false or unproven interpretation of particular structures. That again is a concern which all of us are going on talking of again and again, that we know that there are already, let's say, Red Fort. I heard a few days ago on a national TV somebody saying that the Red Fort was built by Shah Jahan after breaking Red Fort is in Mehroli, which is a good 25 kilometers away from the Shah Jahan's Red Fort. That it was not called Red Fort, it was called Qal'e Mubarak is another story. So would all these things be given there, that, you know, like Delhi has two Red Forts, both of them are separated by a distance of 25 kilometers or whatever. Should these stories be given, or will there be some kind of what should I say, that, you know, like a kind of obfuscation of facts, that we don't know what is. These are the concerns that we have. You already have been hearing about Taj Mahal. There's so many controversies about Taj Mahal. That's again one of the monuments which is going to have a monument mitra. So these are the concerns. I think that when you have the control of an interpretation center, they have not said that whom they are involving. As Ms. Little said, we have to involve people from Indian History Congress. We have to involve academics when this content is being generated. I've been to a sound and light show in Khajuraho, where whatever there was being said in the sound and light was something that I didn't agree with at all, because Khajuraho is a monument to love, and they were somehow making it sound as if it was, you know, something quite, you know, like not so pure as it I feel that it is. So who is going to make this content? And that is the most sensitive part, because when a person goes, if I go there, a student goes there, an old man, anybody goes to the Red Fort, they are not going to be only seeing the structure, they are going to be seeing the story behind it, and that story will now be shown in the interpretation center through the guides, the audio or the visual guides, through whatever they are going to be presenting there.
Concern that who's going to vet the history that's going to be presented and what interpretation will be brought forward. I think that's a valid concern, and we need to have experts on that. But Aman Sinha, you know, I have to go back to the bone of contention that is being made between the politicians, at least, which is getting the private sector involved. Because many people are questioning the expertise or perhaps the lack of it that a company like Dalmia has in the upkeep and maintenance of a monument like the Red Fort. It's like, you know, a lot of people say it's like handing over history to a sugar and cement player with no experience at all. I mean, how is the government going to defend Dalmia upkeeping Red Fort? I mean, what do they know about the Red Fort? What is their area of expertise here?
Supriya has mentioned to you that they will be only extending support services, which will be like cleaning, sanitation, maintaining parks, having benches, having more disabled friendly access in the monument. So, and anything that they wish to do, they are not allowed access in the core areas. Anything that they wish to do, it will only be with the clearance of the ASI and whichever is the concerned agency. Which is central government or state government which is involved there. And obviously, whatever they do, there is going to be a committee, you know, which is going to clear, you know, whatever support services also they extend. So therefore, I do not see any difficulty. And as far as these services are concerned, the essential core competence which is required is to have staff for cleaning and sanitation, to have, you know, proper maintaining of the lawn, you know, parking, etc. So it is not a high-end, you know, thing which, you know, which is not expected of a corporate. And if anybody is not able to come up to the mark, then the government or the whichever is the government agency always has the option of cancelling it and moving on. So therefore, I do not see any difficulty there, Supriya. These are only support services which are extended by even, you know, individual and small companies. So at least our corporates will be able to sustain that. And please remember, this was a philanthropic call. They do not earn any profit out of it. They do not profiteer or, you know, earn any revenue out of it. And therefore, we believe that they have responded to this philanthropic call. And it's a matter of pride for them also that they are, you know, going to be serving there. And they should be doing their duties in that spirit only.
Mohammad Khan, I'm sure I don't need to remind you that maintenance and upkeep of monuments constitutes as corporate social responsibility. That was a notification passed under the UPA government. So I'm sure you are aware of that fact, but it's important that we make the viewers aware of it as well. So it's not as if this is completely taken you and the UPA government by surprise. But I want to add to that. What is this whole fear about branding? You know, is that also a fear? Because, you know, forget about what the minister said. Even the document, the MOU, categorically says that any sort of branding, from the size to where it will have to be done with the approval of the ASI committee. So and that will be a conservative body. So it's not like you're going to see the Red Fort being plastered with Dalmia Bharat posters all across. I mean, surely that's not going to happen.
Well, Sandeep, here I again go back to the words of the inimitable Mr. Alphonse, who said earlier today on a channel that the branding will at most be a few millimeters by a few millimeters. ASI is a very conservative organization. I hope someone informs Dalmia about the deal they're getting into. But lighter notes aside, I will say this. The fundamental question everyone is asking is, was this necessary? Now, Mr. Aman Sinha did not answer my question. You make a certain amount of money. How much of it is spent in maintenance? Why is there a shortfall? Why is that inadequate? These are not questions you answered. You put forth a policy alternative when the existing policy is demonstrably weak. But you haven't made that case out, not before the standing committee,
Sandeep.
not in your vision document, not in your MOU. Sandeep, you asked me, why are we so upset about
Mr.
the terms?
Mohammed Khan, these
Look,
are the questions that you are posing to yourself.
Salubrious
because
as
the
Mr.
Congress
Sinha
party ought to
and
be
Mr.
answering
Alphonse
this.
are putting forth. Sir, I never interrupted you while you spoke. Do me the same courtesy. Now, the terms according to Mr. Sinha and Mr. Alphonse are so very narrow that they will only permit these activities. But as the IHC rightly pointed out, the terms are broad and they can be interpreted as per the whims and fancies of the official deciding what they mean. That is why you need, if indeed Mr. Sinha is correct, then why not put those terms and limit it to that, to those very activities within the body of the text itself. And finally this, Mr. Sinha said that we, the public, will not have to bear the burden of the exchequer anymore. Does this mean that ticket prices will come down? Does this mean there will be a reduction in taxes? We'll stop paying some sort of cess? I think that's an absurd claim to make. So both the grounds that they're putting forth are very specious. And in sum, I would say, look, this policy needs immediate review.
Right. Okay.
Bring in stakeholders. You don't make
I would have
policy
to
on the basis of
respond now.
knee-jerk reaction. Do you know, Sandeep, who were the four bidders?
Okay,
there
one
were
second.
GMR, there were Indigo, there was one other person, and then there was Dalmia. You should have
Okay.
opened up the pool. You should have invited experts.
Right.
These are not people who have expertise in
All
the
right.
sector.
Right.
Clearly, your terms of reference were also flawed.
Okay, okay. Mohammed Khan, no. Mohammed Khan, just hold your thoughts there. I understand there should be expertise in the sector, but you
Supriya, I would
cannot
have to
coax
respond.
people to get in and do this. Mr. Sinha, I'll come back to you. Just give me a second. I'll come back to you because I have a more technical question to ask of Ms. Rana Safavi. And Ms. Safavi, do you believe the decision that will be made by the ASI on branding and, language that has been used is that the signage must be discreet and tasteful. Now, this decision will have to be made by some Babu in ASI, and I'm believing that this leaves room for interpretation, for discretion. And is that the reason behind fueling suspicion?
When they talk of that they are only putting in money and they can't take it out, as far as the tangibles are concerned, yes, any monument Mitra is only going to put in, they cannot take out. But they get so much of intangible, and intangible is this branding. Even if they put a millimeter by a millimeter sign in Red Fort, that's a huge thing. Or even in the Taj Mahal, it's a huge thing. In a Hampi or a Khajuraho, any signage of any size whatsoever, whether it's 1 inch or 10 inches or 10 feet, you get a lot of brand value from it, and that is what they are looking for. Secondly, Mr. Alphonse, when he was talking, did not answer the question clearly on indemnity, or at least I did not understand it. If he did answer it, what have the monument Mitras been indemnified against?
No, he did not answer that question.
And that is again an area of concern. They will not be conserving, they will not be doing any maintenance, they will, any preservation or conservation. But I am quite sure the cleaning staff will be there, and the cleaning staff does go inside the monuments, unless there is going to be some other cleaning staff for the monument and another cleaning staff for outside. I have no idea of that as yet. But in case they have, and the other thing, as far as the Red Fort is concerned, about 80% of the buildings inside the Red Fort were destroyed by the British after the fall of Delhi in 1857. So even if they are going to dig a hole for a tap, you don't know whether underneath it there is a palace or a corridor or anything anything possible could be there, because excavations were done in I think 2014, and a lot of things were discovered underneath. So even that is fraught with danger.
So I take that point. You're saying this, a lot of this is fraught with danger. Swapna, I want to come to you on a point made by a lot of historians, people like William Dalrymple, who categorically said that in principle this move is not bad, but the government has erred in beginning this corporate experiment with what they're calling the crown jewels, and that has sort of started or sparked the debate. Do you find merit in that argument? Should the government have sort of started with a smaller monument and not the Red Fort? People argue, will the Lincoln Memorial ever be leased out in the US? So would that have made sense? Or do you believe that for this to be effective, you should make one test case, lease out a massive, a monument like the Red Fort, see how it works, and then that sets an example to emulate everywhere else?
Well, I think the sort of term pilot project was used just now. This is certainly not a pilot project. There are just so many monuments involved right now. You have just kind of, certainly you have dived into the deep end right now. You are doing this. Yes, that is debatable. I mean, it's debatable. It could have been started on a smaller scale. Yes, of course, you would have had not such a, I don't know how many people would have come out to start to adopt sort of significantly smaller monuments. You know, the very fact that you are putting these, you know, sort of real sort of attractions out there. In fact, the scheme is interesting because you're supposed to take a little, it has to be a package. You have to take one, you know, one of the first tier and one of the second tier and one of the third tier. I'd be interested to know what Dalmia has taken, in fact, with Red Fort. What else have they taken? Because it's incentivizing you to take the less well known monuments also. It is debatable. I quite agree with that. And we will just have to see how this works. And I think the onus is on historians, on experts, on the ASI to be very vigilant, to keep an eye on things and see how this is working out, and we will have to keep our eyes open and we will have to question what is going on, because this is not a leasing out. We are not leasing any, you know, at least I don't look at it that way, and the only reason I'm not looking at it that way because the government seems to be assuring us that it's not like that, and I'm going to hold them to that, and I'm going to go and see what is going on, and I'm going to question.
That's an important point, and all of us who sit here and debate, I think we should be going very often to monuments and figure out how things are, and perhaps make our own contribution as well. I think that's a very valid point that's being raised there. But Aman Sinha, coming to you, and I think you wanted to make a point there, but very quickly I also have a question. I personally think the reason for this entire controversy around Red Fort, of course, the fact that they're crown jewels, the biggest assets, and the other part is that Red Fort itself is a rich monument. It gets about 20 odd crore rupees in revenue from ticket sales and from parking fee, which is why many people are questioning the need to have a corporate to adopt it. I mean, Red Fort wasn't an orphaned monument like some of the others perhaps are.
Supriya, as the expert previously was mentioning, that the group, they have been categorized into 3 separate categories, and the group which has a particular monument in A category also has to pick up a monument in B and C category. So therefore, the Red Fort in a way is also ensuring proper upkeep and maintenance of other monuments which are lying in abject neglect. And I was quite amused to see the defense coming out from Congress party criticizing the government for poor upkeep and maintenance of the monuments. It was the criticism is directed towards the Congress party itself, because they were the ones who were responsible for upkeep and maintenance at least for 60 years. And what did they do? Nothing at all. What has happened? What has it led to? The monuments are today lying in shambles. They are lying in abject neglect. We have to think out of the box to devise new strategies as to how to restore their old lost glory. And the expert was pointing out that it's not a pilot project. Let me mention, Supriya, that there are about 3,500 ASI maintained properties and monuments, and out of that only 116 have been, the support services have been, given to a few of these companies, etc., or individuals, whoever may, bid for that. And therefore, it's just a minuscule, maybe 3% or something of that. So it's obviously, we would like to see how it goes, and thereafter the government and the ASI will take a view. But the fact of the matter is very clear that whatever these agencies do, they cannot put a nail anywhere, they cannot dig a hole anywhere, apart from the clearance of ASI. In fact, it doesn't change anything, because they are not permitted to construct and do any kind of maintenance. So the construction, the maintenance and the upkeep of the core areas would be done in the same manner as it was going on earlier.
Okay.
And in fact, the support services also, they were outsourced earlier during the UPA Congress regime, and they are outsourced here also.
Okay.
But we will have better maintenance, better accountability, better responsibility, and no taxpayer burden.
Fair
so
enough.
I do not know what is the problem that the Congress party has it. and why are they trying to politicize this issue is beyond comprehension.
Okay, Mohammad Khan, only fair, I'll let you respond to it quickly, but I want to add to it and sort of let's step back from a slightly apolitical angle and look at the big picture here. I'm sure everyone in this panel, the historians and the politicians will agree that the state of our historical monuments is pathetic, and it's like Supriya earlier said, it's anything but a pleasant experience to go to any of the historical monuments in this country. And even if for a moment I don't want to get into this blame game of what happened in 60 years of UPA or whatever, it sort of reflects the inefficiency and incompetence of the state to manage these monuments. And I'm trying to understand: is there a solution that you believe needs to be done? Could this have been done any differently? Instead of saying, "Oh, this is bad," because otherwise I just feel like it is because there's this whole anti-capitalist sort of rhetoric that the Congress party wants to fan because it's convenient to fan. Or do you believe genuinely this could have been done in a better way? If so, what and why hasn't it been done in all this while? Mohammad Khan.
Well, Sandeep, let me begin by answering you by reading out from the expression of interest issued by them. I'm certain Mr. Sinha will also be surprised to see this. What were the criteria on the basis of which these people were chosen? I'll take only 15 seconds. Financial soundness, past initiatives, CSR ratings, and evaluation of the detailed vision documents. Please notice, Sandeep, the one thing missing from this is historical expertise. Now, let me read out another paragraph to you from the expression of interest. Now, Mr. Sinha and Mr. Alphonse would like us to believe that these people are essentially going to be glorified cleaners. But the document promises them much more. It promises them that to tap the true potential of these monuments, we need to provide basic and advanced amenities, illumination, night viewing facilities with safety, security, tourists, adaptive use of heritage sites within the permissible guidelines of the ASI. Sir, I'm sorry. You have been promising these people who are bidding a very different deal, and you're coming here and you're saying it's innocuous. Mr. Sinha, if cleanliness was a priority, you should have hired cleaners. No one would have faulted you for that. If providing Wi-Fi was a priority, you should have issued a tender to provide Wi-Fi. No one would have faulted you for that. You could have done independent MOUs. The reason you're here and you're unable to answer any of the questions we've put forth before
I will have to respond.
Is because you yourself have put forth a clumsy piece of policy.
Everything has been answered. The questions that you're putting,
largely because it has no inputs from stakeholders.
The Congress party did nothing at all.
That is why stakeholders are coming out to you. And all you can do is talk about the Congress. Sir, you would be lucky if you could rival even a year of what
Mohammad Khan and Aman Sinha, I am sorry. Mohammad Khan and Aman Sinha, there are very important points to be discussed on this debate. No. Mohammad Khan and Aman Sinha, please wait for a minute. I will come to you on the politics of this. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take any more questions with the two of you right now. I will go across to Rana Safi and ask her this question. Everybody keeps citing these global parallels. Look at what Italy has done. It's a beautiful country. Italy has the highest number of UNESCO heritage sites. The Colosseum was adopted by Tod's. The Trevi Fountain was adopted by Fendi. Bulgaria has adopted some monuments in Venice. But the difference perhaps is that they conserve and not just maintain public conveniences. And is that differentiation being missed in the public discourse here? Italy did it, so can we.
Exactly, that is the point. See, they are maintaining and preserving the monument itself, whether it's the Colosseum by Todd or whether it is the Trevi or the Spanish Steps, whatever it is. And I've been to all these three places. There are no signages of any of these of the corporates there. That's a side issue. Let's not get sidetracked. But they are maintaining it beautifully. They are conserving it, they are preserving it, and they are ensuring that it lasts. We are not doing that. And they also charge tickets. We also charge tickets. And as I come back to the same point, we don't only need toilets. We need something to look at also. We don't go to a monument to drink water or to sit in the cafeteria or for Wi-Fi. We have all that at home. We go there to see the history of the place, to get a feel of the place. And I went to one, there's a monument in Delhi, which it's quite an important monument, but it's in a very shabby state. I went there once about 2 years ago when I was writing my book, and there were a group of boys sitting there and drinking beer, and they smashed the bottle there. I called the guard and I said, what is this? He said, Madam, aap dekh rahe hain na, wo 20 log hain, hum ek hain, humko maar dalenge. And so, when you go in there, this is a major danger. Like, I go alone many a times, and it's this thing for me. It's a risk which I take when I go into a monument alone, because it's not even safe in some of the lesser known monuments to be going into it. Plus, then there is all the danger of broken shards and even filth. I've come back with actual shit on my shoes because of the filth that people come there for. In some of the monuments which are not locked up, people come there for their early morning jobs. So that part is correct, that we do need somebody to maintain it and to clean it, but we do need somebody to conserve it also.
Okay, I take that point. Swapna, I'm going to let you have the last word and, sort of very quickly paint for us the worst case scenario. I mean, now that this step has been taken, despite all the political noise around it, what is the worst case scenario? What is the big downside that's going to come through because of this decision, and what could be the potential upside? And fundamentally, do you believe that culture, history, archaeology, is this all sole monopoly of the government and the state, or do you believe that private capital, efficiently allocated, should find its space here as well?
Now, I really feel that when we are questioning Dalmia's competence in this, we are sort of it's not that team which manufactures sugar or whatever who's going to be doing this, right? They will hire experts, I presume. It's just that I would like to really have a better idea of exactly what they're going to put out there, and it would be a great help if they follow a little bit of a transparency in their whole procedure. Let us know from time to time. Let us be reassured that and as I said before, this question of what kind of signage they'll be putting in, there's the information that will be put out through their interpretation centers or their audio guide or visual guide. I'd like to see that. I'd like to be reassured that suddenly we won't have something ugly telling us or some very ugly sort of illumination or something like that. It's just I'd love to see a great job done, and I hope that it is, but again, what is the mechanism there for ensuring that that great job is done?
All right, on that note, completely timed out on this edition of the India Development Debate, and it's been a fascinating discussion because this is a discussion about India's past in its future, and I think it's absolutely fascinating to hear experts and politicians make a spirited call. We all love our monuments, we want them to be clean, and I don't think it's the sole monopoly of the state to keep them clean, but corporates who are coming in need to understand that these monuments and heritage sites belong to each one of us. Having said that, monuments across the world are being given out to corporates, but there's also conservation. I think that's just one part of the story that's missing as far as handing out monuments here in India is concerned. Conservation is as much key because you can't have swanky toilets all around and Wi-Fi and miss on the fact that monuments could be crumbling with it.
On that note, I want to thank this wonderful panel, Mohammad Khan and Amantana of the BJP and the Congress, Jana Safi and Swapna Little, the two eminent historians, for joining us with their perspective. Up next is Top 10 at 10 with Tanya. Keep it with ET Now.